What's up, everybody? We're here today with Scott at Comes With a View, our good friend, and he's going to be giving us a tour of his 170 Sprinter custom built. He's been living in for almost 3 years now. So here we go. We're here with Scott, aka Comes With a View on Instagram, one of our oldest van friends. I think you are our oldest van friend.
I think I might be the first person that you actually met that was living out of a van.
Yeah, the first van I think that we saw in person, which would have been like 2 years ago now.
Yeah, I think Sara reached out to me on Instagram.
Tell everybody a little bit about your backstory and why for you, van life, what made you make the decision to build out this awesome tiny home and travel?
Yeah, for me it's just like, I mean, I'm not going to get into too much detail about my backstory, but basically my life had gotten to the point where I just wasn't really happy with the way I was living day to day, and for me, I just need to make a change to enable my life to do more things that I enjoyed every day. And for me, I started seeing a bit of the whole van life movement and just the freedom it allowed and stuff like that. And I had a bit of a construction background, so I just kind of said, this looks like something that I would enjoy doing. So I just kind of pulled the trigger, bought the van, and then started building it out. And I haven't really looked back since. So
tell us a little bit about your build. You were living in Winnipeg. You bought your van going into the winter. What was that process like of building over the winter in Winnipeg?
Well, the plan wasn't to build the van in the winter, but just everything in the van, the first time you do it, takes twice as long as you think it's going to take. So I bought the van. I was like, okay, I've got some construction experience. I looked at the space. I was like, I should be able to get this done in 3 months. So double that in a bit, and then 6 months later, I was finished. So in Winnipeg, kind of around October, November, it starts to get cold, starts to snow. So inevitably, I was building in the middle of winter and didn't finish this build till, I think, around Christmas time. And so it was freezing cold, but I was able to get it done. One
of the reasons I think his build took as long as it did is, knowing Scott, I know that he documented everything along the way for his first build, which when I look back to our first build, if I would have tried to document everything along the way, I'd still be building that van. You'd still be showing by, having a beer and going, yeah, I think you got a few more weeks left. And what's really cool about the fact that he did that, he like photo documentation, video documentation, and now you have your van build guide, which is an awesome membership website that he's just about to launch and release. We might even have a special promo for you guys down in the description below if you guys want to sign up on a kind of a pre-sign up list. We're going to be offering a special deal for 40 hours of freedom followers. Now we're going to give you guys a little bit of a tour.
Yeah, I'm just going to give you a quick tour of my van and kind of show you some of the things I did and maybe talk about a little bit why I did things a certain way. The first thing I'm going to show you here, this is my this is actually my interior plumbing that I use in the winter. When I originally built the van, all of the plumbing tanks were underneath, my gray water, black water, fresh water. And it turns out I like to do a lot of snowboarding in the winter, which I didn't think I was going to do with the van. So I had to build this box to get some water in the van. So if you lift this up here and you can see inside I have just two 6-gallon jugs. One of them is the fresh water and one of them is gray water. So I've got 6 gallons of gray water, 6 gallons of fresh water in here. And then I actually use my hot water tank in the winter as a holding tank, and that's another 12 gallons. So I have 18 gallons total of fresh water when I am snowboarding or in a winter climate. So the first thing you notice when you come into the van is the closet here. I don't have a permanent shower set up. We'll get to the shower in the back later. Because I did want to have a large closet because I do summer and winter activities. So I have tons of clothes I need to bring for all seasons. Jackets, raincoats, ski pants. I have a nice big closet, as you can see, with a little light that turns on when you open it. So I've got lots of hanging storage. The light just works on a little magnetic switch when you open this door. So this is all the clothes storage. Down here, this is just more storage. This is just kind of like, this is t-shirts and layers for snowboarding, long johns, that kind of stuff. Down here I've got some of my camera stuff, and then underneath here is all my shoe storage. So up in the front, the only other thing, I've got the swivel seat on the passenger seat. My S-bar is underneath the passenger seat. I've got this curtain system here, so it just unhooks here, pulls across, pulls across and it buttons up, and this is pretty well perfectly blackout, which is perfect for living in the van and kind of closing it off from the front. When you check out the build guide, you'll notice in there that originally I had built my own curtain, actually using IKEA has kind of like a blackout insulated curtain. And it worked great for 2 years, but after 2 years on the road, they just kind of broke down. So I did have these ones custom made over at ADF Sprinters, and they fit perfectly, they work great. One thing I'm going to show you that they did that's really nice down here is you can see right built into the curtain is the screen that cut out, and that allows the hot air from the S-bar to blow right into the back without having to pin up the curtain or do anything funny. Start on this side of the van, the passenger side. So this is where my sink is and all of my water. So I've got the sink here, faucet. This is one of my favorite things right here. This is just the soap dispenser, but it is amazingly handy having it right there. Sink flips up. And having a paper towel holder is probably something I forgot to mention, but is one of my favorite things in the whole van. It's just really handy to have. So on this side, underneath the sink, I have my hot water tank. It's an electric hot water tank. It's 12 gallons, which is huge for a van conversion. You can see this drawer here. This is just kind of toiletries and stuff like that, kind of stuff you'd find in the bathroom. And then underneath here is my garbage, cleaning supplies, my charge controllers in this cabinet, and my two-stage water filter that I use. I have a sediment filter and then a carbon sterisil filter so I can drink the water safely from pretty much anywhere. Above here, you'll notice this is a nice clean cabinet. When I designed the van, I really wanted to kind of have an apartment feel and not really an RV feel, so I didn't want all of the sort of RV components visible. This is sort of command center, control center. So I've got just a thermostat here, I've got my battery monitor, my S-bar, my tank monitor, my inverter on-off switch, and then just kind of my light switches, my exterior rack lighting, to turn my router on and off, water pump on and off. All of that's kind of housed right in here in this, nice clean cabinet. I got a remote here, and I can turn from bed, I can turn the lights off and on, which is really handy. My router setup that I use to get internet on the road. So I use the Cradlepoint IBR 1100, and that takes 2 SIM cards, so I do have to buy a data package from a wireless provider. And then I also have an omnidirectional antenna on the roof to sort of extend the range, which works really well. So when I'm in the van, I get really good service and I'm able to work from the road. But we're talking about these cabinets here. One thing, you've seen this in my van, you've probably seen it in most of Alex and Sarah's vans that they've done, is when I was doing the van, I recessed these cabinets back. I think it's about 4 or 5 inches. And that's just so when I was cooking or working over top of the counter space, you can see that the cabinet's not right in my face. And it gives me just a little bit more room to kind of work and just be more comfortable when I'm cooking and doing that kind of stuff. This is just food storage up in here, regular food storage. I've got an induction cooktop that runs off the solar and the house battery bank. These 3 cabinets, these are just storage. This one's kind of like the kitchen, cooking stuff and just kind of a bit of a junk drawer. And then in here, you'll see that I've got a slide-out fridge-freezer combo. So as we move back, this is kind of my work area and bed. So on this side underneath the bench, that's all storage. And underneath this bench, this is all of my solar components are stored underneath here. So those things like my AC breaker box, my DC breaker box, my inverter, my ACR, my 12-volt fuse panel, all of that's located underneath there. And then the batteries are right behind it. See, before I show you the bed, one thing that I do like is you'll notice I built with my dad the ability for this table to move in 4 directions. So I can, unclip it and I can easily walk past the bed. Whereas if you don't have a mechanism like this, it makes it a bit awkward to get past the bed in this kind of layout. So with this design, I'm using drawer slides, I'm able to easily maneuver the table all over the place. With my bed, it's really easy. All you kind of have to do is just I just pick up the pillows, pull the cushions out of the way. With the way my table slides, I just make sure the table's in the right orientation. I just clip off the 2 pedestal locks underneath, push the table down, put the cushions back in place, and then it's ready to go. It doesn't take me very long. You guys watch that. It probably takes, 20 seconds to be ready for bed. And because I am short, I am able to sleep across the van this way. And I don't have to sleep lengthwise, which gives me a little bit of extra space. So in the back of the van, you can see that I've got the RV toilet by Dometic. This toilet is a full flush toilet that works with a ball valve with a foot flush on the bottom there. So it's fed through my fresh water tank, and that dumps directly into my 12-gallon black water tank. That works really well for me. I can get about, I'd say about 2.5 to 3 weeks, depending on how regularly I'm using the toilet, in between needing to find a dump station. In front of the toilet, you'll see that I've got this grate here, and this grate, it actually lifts out and reveals my shower pan. So this shower pan is, there'll be a link in the van build guide, but I think it's made by a company called North Sierra. Don't quote me on that. Link's in there. But it's actually it's a toilet and shower pan in one. So when I lift that grate out, I just shower right in front of here, and everything's kind of self-contained. So yeah, now I'll show you my shower setup, which is probably, for most people, it was probably the least amount of work, but it gets the biggest wow factor in the whole van. So as you can see, I have this cabinet in the back, and I went with this style of shower just because I wanted the bigger closet, as I mentioned before, and I didn't want to devote as much space as it takes to have the full-time shower. And being by myself in the van, this system works great. It's really easy to use, and I really have no regrets on it, and still gives me shower and a big closet. So if that's what you're looking for, I highly recommend something like this. So you can see these two latches, they just unhook on each side. So they unhook. This cabinet flips up. When the cabinet flips up, it reveals the shower curtain. The shower curtain pulls down, and it's measured to fit, directly within inside the shower pan. People often ask, do I get water everywhere? Is it a mess? I've actually never had any issues with water anywhere. It all stays pretty much right in the shower pan. Underneath here, you can see I've got my, this is my cold water. This is my hot water valve. And that goes to a low flow shower head. And the thing I really like is it's got the on-off switch directly on the shower head here. So you can rinse up, turn it off, and then you can soap up and then turn it back on to rinse off, so you're not wasting water. One other thing I did do is I installed, it's kind of an extra long shower hose. I believe it's 8 feet. And that allows me to use this suction cup, and I can suction cup this on the back door, hook this in here, and I can shower right outside the van and rinse off after surfing, or if I'm in a really remote area where I'm fine being out the back showering, I can just shower outside. One other thing I wanted to touch on was I just kind of want to talk about my solar system and my hot water system, because a lot of people are interested by that. So on the roof, I actually have two 260 watt solar panels, so that's 520 watts of solar, which is, it's a lot of solar, but that's what allows me to cook with electricity. You use everything in the van's powered with the solar, and I'm actually able to heat my water with the solar and the alternator. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't have that much solar power up there. So for me, having a single fuel source, so diesel and solar, I didn't want to use propane. This is one of the better ways that you can get around having that single fuel source. So the way that I heat my hot water is inside the solar cabinet. You'll see that I have what's called an opportunity relay, or I think it's an SSD. And the way that that works is once it recognizes that the batteries are at the full voltage, which is a full charge, it opens up that relay, which usually happens a little bit during the absorb and the float phase of the solar charging cycle. And then it starts to dump the excess power. Now that the relay's closed, it dumps it over to my hot water tank. So normally once the batteries are charged, all that extra solar that you'd be making, it just goes to waste because there's nothing for it to charge or be used on. Now I take that energy and I use that to heat my hot water. So between heating hot water off driving around with the alternator and then using that opportunity relay to utilize the excess solar, it's been a great system for me. And by having such a large hot water tank, once it is hot, it does take a lot longer for it to cool down. So then I have hot water for quite a while once I've got it to full temperature. Things on the outside of the van that you'll notice is I've got a ladder and rack. A lot of people think they're made by Luminess or one of the many rack outfitters. This is actually a project I took on myself and then just had it powder coated and installed. The whole van is outlined in the van build guide, so if you have any questions on components or where I bought this or where I got that, everything is listed out there. So just, you know, I think there'll be a link in the description or something like that, so just go check it out.
All right, hope you guys enjoyed this tour of Scott's awesome house on wheels. If you are interested in the van build guide, then you can click the link below. There's going to be a special offer down there so you can get hooked up. And thanks so much for showing us your van, taking the time, and we'll see you guys next time.